The punch landed before the question ever did. 1 second of steel flashing, and a boy collapsed onto the pavement while the world seemed to forget how to breathe. It was supposed to be an ordinary afternoon in Oakwood, a quiet neighborhood in Raleigh, North Carolina. Lawns were trimmed, kids rode scooters, and wind chimes clinked lazily in the breeze. Nobody expected to witness a nightmare unravel right there on Maple Drive. Ethan Carter had just turned 14. His dad had surprised him that morning with the kind of birthday gift every kid dreams of: a brand new bike mat, blue frame, silver chain brakes so clean they gleamed in the sun. Ethan rode it like he'd been waiting his whole life, curl bouncing beneath his helmet sneakers, gripping the pedals as if the pavement itself belonged to him. He leaned into turns like he was chasing the sunlight. For once he felt untouchable, until he wasn't. Officer Randall Pierce didn't flash his lights, didn't even announce himself. He just stepped out from between two parked cars like a hunter who'd spotted prey. "Hey, you stop right there." Ethan froze, not because he was guilty, but because his father had drilled that instinct into him. Stop, stay calm, don't escalate. He squeezed the brakes and let one foot drop to the ground. He lifted his eyes, and what he saw was the last man any black kid wanted staring him down on an empty street. Randall Pierce, a tall, square-jawed cop with 30 years in the department and a face that looked carved from stone. "Where'd you get that bike, son?" Pierce's voice carried suspicion, like it was part of his badge. "It's mine, sir," Ethan answered, voice steady. "That's so, bike like that cost a paycheck and a half. Looks a little fancy for a kid like you." He stepped closer, boots striking the pavement as if to hammer in the point. Ethan tightened his grip on the handlebars. "It was a gift from my dad." Pierce's lip curled. "Must be one hell of a job your daddy's got. What is he selling? Dope-boosting cars, maybe?" By then, a few neighbors had noticed. A woman walking her dog slowed at the corner. A delivery guy leaned halfway out of his van. Nobody spoke. Ethan swallowed and said softly, "He works in law enforcement." That was true. But his father had warned him, never say more than you need to. Pierce let out a laugh sharp enough to cut. "Law enforcement? What a mall cop. Security at a grocery store. Don't play games with me, boy." Before Ethan could reply, Pierce lunged forward, yanking the bike from under him. Ethan stumbled his foot, catching a pedal. "What are you doing?" Ethan shouted. "You're resisting." Pierce snapped flat and automatic. "I'm not resisting." "Let go." But the next thing Ethan saw was a flash of metal, brass knuckles, and then pain. A force so hard, it sent his head sideways, teeth tearing into his cheek as blood sprayed onto the asphalt. His body hit the ground with a sickening thud. The bike clattered beside him, wheel spinning like a useless clock. Silence followed. Just the ringing in Ethan's ears, the warm stream of blood sliding down his neck. The onlookers didn't step in, they froze. Shock held them back, except one man. Reggie Holloway sat across the street, an Army vet turned drifter who slept under the bridge a block away. He had seen this scene play out before too many times, but this time he did what nobody else did. He raised his cracked phone and pressed record. Pierce towered over Ethan Brass, knuckles still on his fist. "Stay down," he barked. "You so much as twitch again, I swear to God." From the crowd a man called, "He didn't do anything. He was just riding his damn bike." But fear kept them at bay. Pierce dragged Ethan up, slapped cuffs on his wrists, and shoved him toward the cruiser. "You're under arrest for assaulting an officer and attempted theft." Ethan spat blood, gasping, "What, you hit me?" Pierce turned to the crowd with the confidence of a man who had rehearsed this story 100 times. "He tried to grab my gun. I feared for my life." Inside the cruiser, Ethan's vision blurred. His jaw throbbed like fire. He whispered the only thing he could: "Call my dad." At the station, the paperwork was already written before he even sat in the holding cell. The report painted him as a violent kid who had lashed out. No mention of brass knuckles, no mention of witnesses, no mention of blood. Just another line in a system that erased boys like him. Ethan dialed the only number that mattered. His father picked up. Dad, I need you. I'm at the precinct. He said I stole my bike. He hit me with something metal. There was a pause, Cole deliberated. Don't say another word to anyone. I'll be there. When the front doors of Raleigh's 12th precinct opened half an hour later, the lobby didn't erupt in chaos. It fell silent. A man in a black button-up walked in with shoulders squared, face unreadable. He laid a badge on the desk, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Supervisory Special Agent, Civil Rights Division. His name was Marcus Carter, Ethan's father. I'm here for my son, he said quietly. Captain Willis, a man used to being in control, nearly tripped over his words when he realized who had just walked in. Marcus didn't raise his voice, didn't slam his fists, he simply demanded answers. My son has a broken jaw. He was riding his birthday bike. He was punched with a concealed weapon. He was booked on falsified charges, and nobody called me. The room shifted. For the first time, the shield of silence cracked. Officer Maria Delgado, new to the force and still young enough to feel her gut twist at injustice, stepped forward with a folder. Photos from intake showing Ethan's swollen face. Surveillance stills proving he had been dragged in without a fight. And then the storm hit. Reggie's video uploaded shaky and grainy, but undeniable. Within hours, it spread online. Hashtags erupted. Justice for Ethan trended by midnight. The city had to face what it tried so long to bury. Inside the station, Marcus' face pierced directly during an internal review. They played footage from a street cam, no audio, but the truth was clear. Ethan had stopped when ordered. He hadn't resisted. Then came the lunge, the punch, the collapse. Pierce muttered, "That angle's misleading. You can't hear what he said. He could have been threatening." "He's 14, Marcus replied coldly. "The only threat you saw was his skin." The room went still. But the real twist came days later. An anonymous envelope arrived at a local news station. Inside, blood-stained brass knuckles bagged as evidence. And a note, "I was wrong, but I'm not the only one." Now the story wasn't just about one violent cop. It was about cover-ups, missing body cams, and a department built on silence. The trial that followed wasn't cinematic, it was raw. Ethan's jaw wired shut, sat in the witness chair, and spoke through the pain. "I wasn't resisting. I was breathing." His words cut sharper than any lawyer's argument. Pierce's attorney tried to spin it, but the evidence was too heavy. The video, the knuckles, the falsified report all exposed. The jury came back with a guilty verdict, aggravated assault, falsifying reports, obstruction of justice. When the judge denied bail and the cuffs clicked around Pierce's wrists, the courtroom didn't cheer. Ethan didn't smile. Marcus didn't gloat. They just sat in silence, the kind that comes after a storm, knowing this was only a beginning. In the months that followed, more officers were investigated. Files buried for years resurfaced. Maria Delgado joined internal affairs to fight from within. Reggie started a podcast shining light on stories like Ethan's. And Ethan himself, he healed, slowly. 1 year later, he stood on a stage in Lincoln Park looking out at hundreds of faces. His voice trembled, but not from fear anymore. "I didn't want to be a symbol," he said. "I just wanted to ride my bike. But if I am one, I'll make it count." The crowd roared, but Ethan lifted a hand, stopping them. Justice doesn't start in courtrooms. It starts with people who refuse to look away. And maybe that's the part that still lingers, the uneasy truth. Was it justice or just a beginning? So now I'll leave it to you. What do you think, was this true justice or just another bandage on a broken system? Have you ever seen someone judged unfairly, silenced or ignored until the truth finally forced its way out? Tell me in the comments, because stories like this aren't fading away. They're waiting for people like you to keep the light on them.